Starting off with you, Gaurav, very eager to hear about your story.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudha. So, thank you is Ingrid Rao. Ingrid. So thank you so much, CSIP, for inviting us to share our thoughts. It's been a wonderful event so far. I must say that starting a panel on capacity building, we probably should start with what capacity really means. And if you look at it very simply, capacity is what is required to achieve your goals. It might be people capability, it might be people availability, it might be economic resources, financial resources, physical resources. It also might be social capital, it might be networks, it might be various kinds of connections, it might be political power, it could be many, many different things. And capacity actually is really broad-based in terms of what it means. We've used the first couple of panels today to talk about certain kinds of capacity. We've talked about funding, we've talked about operations and M&E. And it's, in some ways, I'm cracking a joke, Ingrid, don't get angry with me. In some ways, representative of the people in the room shows the interest in people such. The room was maximum when we talked about funding. Yeah. It went down a little bit when we talked about operations, but there were still people around. But when we come to talk about people and capacity building of people is when interest in the sector starts dwindling and starts waning. So, kind of representative to the topic and to the panel at hand. Very, very quickly, I'll talk about so since we are an educational institution, we talk about leadership development, and capacity building is really, really close to our heart. We did a study last year along with Satva, and Aarti was here representing Satva earlier, on understanding the leadership development landscape and capacity building landscape in the country. We talked to multiple social purpose organizations, their leaders, CEOs, to understand what they mean. And this is what they said in terms of what are the factors affecting or hindering capacity development. And three main things. One, we don't have time. Two, we don't have money. Three, we don't know which program to go for. So there really isn't too much around. And really this brings to core the main problem with capacity building is this idea of scarcity. We just don't have what it takes to do capacity building. We also asked them, okay, if one was to look at the future and try to see what are the trends which are really going to define the ecosystem in the social space, and what are the skill sets that are really important for leaders going ahead, this is what they said. So very, very briefly, there were three highlights for me from these 6 points. One, we really need people to start revisualizing what social change means and how it will come about. We need to move out from a siloed approach to a more systems-based approach. Two, we need to create credibility for the sector, and we've had people on earlier panels talking about that. Three, there's a quick joke, sorry, before I go to the third point. Yesterday, I told someone that I work in the social sector, and they said, oh, you work in social media and digital. I said, no. So when we talk about credibility, we talk about a basic level of understanding and a basic respect for what this sector does and is trying to achieve. Three, the importance of collaborating and partnering with a variety of stakeholders. And there are four. One, the government. Two, social purpose organizations. Three, funding organizations. And four, talent. People who are working in your organizations and nurturing, attracting and nurturing that kind of a talent. And if you look at these, in some ways this lays the agenda for capacity building for the sector going ahead. And on the next slide, I'll talk about modes of capacity building, and let's try and understand how capacity building actually plays out across multiple modes and the role that technology therefore plays in that. If I look at the entire spectrum, there is pure technology on one side, there is pure facilitated learning on the other side, and there is a kind of a mix of facilitated technology somewhere in the middle. I'm sure your experience, and as much as ours, shows that pure technology works on ideas of skill building. It works on fairly simple concepts where the context of the user or the learner is not important. where co-creation of knowledge is not important. It's great when we are talking about transfer of existing knowledge, and technology plays a huge role in terms of making that happen. For example, if I wanted to, if there were 100,000 people and I wanted everyone to know the basic tenets of what was written in RTE, just what is written in the right to education, technology would be great. Maybe if I want to teach Excel as a tool, technology would be great. But would technology work? Or if I want to teach people what an iceberg model is, as part of systems thinking, technology would be great. But if we really want to talk about changing mindsets and getting into conversations on why systems is now the approach to go rather than working in silos, I'm not sure I could do a pure technology model. That's where the importance of face-to-face facilitated discussions is really, really high. Adult learning, the context of the learner, co-creation of knowledge, and just collaborative meaning making and understanding. The facilitated learning piece, which is somewhere in the middle, and we've seen examples of MOOCs, we've seen examples of Zoom calls now, of Kong calls, of Skype being used, various technology mediums being used. It's somewhere in the middle because I think you're able to engage with content which is slightly more complex. You're able to have Q&A sessions. You're able to have some kind of an engagement, but it just doesn't compare to a session where you're in a room with people who are trying to make sense together. Body language can't be seen, context cannot be explored, and co-creation of knowledge is very, very difficult. So the way forward, and given the importance of money and finance and making it happen, really probably blended learning is the way to go ahead. Blended learning really combines technology with face-to-face learning. I'll take just a minute more, Sudha. So in our experience, the effective parameters for good quality capacity building are the following. One, you cannot do complex mindset shifting work in a 1-day, 3-day workshop, in a one-time story. I don't know how many of you have gone through programs where you've had that experience. I certainly haven't. So you need to look at medium to long term. You need to look at a cohort of opinion makers coming together to go through that journey. Two, a lot of capacity building is focused on skills. For some reason, we believe, oh, but can you do something on time management and stress management? And can you teach? I've had people come to me and said, can you teach general management skills? We're like, that is based on the assumption that the problem right now and why performance is not happening is that skills are missing. We feel that there are a lot of foundational elements that need to be talked and discussed about, which will then lay the foundation on which skills can stand. And that's where mindsets, that's where a connect to a larger purpose, that's where ownership really, really comes into play. Skills don't bring about ownership. Lastly, meaning making. All of us are different. We learn differently. Somebody learns by listening, somebody learns by reading, somebody will learn through peer mechanisms, somebody will learn through visual mechanisms. We must be able to create longer term, multi-modal learning opportunities. We must be able to look at a model which incorporates input, which incorporates application, which incorporates reflection, and which incorporates learning. And technology can actually help you doing that. You can do readings online, you can do peer learning forums online, you can do sharing of reflections online, but the basic learning process will still need to be blended. Let me end with just some humor on capacity building, something that really cracks me up. What if we train them and they leave? What if we don't and they stay? That is reality today. Which all of us, hand to heart, are struggling with that reality today. Last slide. Train people well enough so they can leave. Treat them well enough so they don't want to. Thank you so much.